Good afternoon, Ms. Singhate.
Singhate, ñu ngi la nuyu.
Hope you had a good break.
We're all
we're all fasting, so sorry that we cannot give you the normal TRRC hospitality. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the 2011 Tax Commission, which you headed. And you had said something interesting, that we cannot ask questions about the Tax Commission that you sat on. Can you please provide any provision that exists that says that we cannot ask questions about the Tax Commission?
I didn't say you cannot ask questions. I say you cannot ask me questions. Why? Because I presided over the Tax Commission, one. And the decision of the Tax Commission is similar to that of a decision of a judgment of a court. And no judge is required or is expected to explain the decisions that they have decided, they have rendered.
That's why, as you said earlier, the commission is created by an act of law. And in this commission, you were not a judge. You were a commissioner. If you can provide for us any provision or any law that says we cannot ask questions on it, we will take that.
One, I was a judge. Two, the provision under Section 202 of the Constitution subsection 3, which says a commissioner appointed under Section 200 shall not be liable to any action or suit in respect of any matter or thing bona fide done committed to be done in performance of his or her function as a commissioner. It therefore follows, if you are inquiring into the activities of any commission, that inquiry may lead to an action or suit in respect of the matter that was done in the commission. The provision is very clear. I am not under obligation to start explaining what happened, because the report is there for everybody to read it, to understand the rationale behind the decisions made, the recommendations that were made. In fact, the Supreme Court of the Gambia has already decided and upheld the decision of the Tax Commission. So that is that.
Ms. Singhate, I think you have misinterpreted that section of the Constitution.
Miss Singhate,
because I am not asking you about the findings, etc. I was merely asking you about people who were tasked to appear before the said commission. Because this commission is a truth-seeking commission and is looking into rights violations. And that commission was set up to target
te commission boobu dañ ko tànn taxawal pour tànn.
certain lawyers.
yenn ay lawyer.
certain companies.
yenn company.
and people that Yaya Jammeh was not happy with.
ak ay nit ñoo xam ne sax Yaya Jammeh daal kontaanu ci seen mbir.
Fine, it was created by law.
dëgg la loi moo ko taxawal.
But it targeted people.
waaye nag dafa am ay nit ñoo xam ne ñoom lañ doon tànn.
Hence why I asked you how many lawyers were called to the commission.
loolu moo taxoon ma laaj la ñaata lawyer lañ ooyoon pour ñu ñëw ci kanam commission boobu.
Can you remember or you don't remember?
I don't remember, but I know it's in the records of proceedings of the commission of
mënuma ko
inquiry.
fàttale ko de waaye nag xam naa ne mu ngi bind ci liñ bind ci record yi commission boobu.
Do you know how many companies were called to that commission?
ndax xamoon nga ñaata compagnie lañ ooyoon pour ñu jàkkaarloo commission boobu.
It's in the records of proceedings. I don't remember at the top of my head.
mënuma ko fàttale ko ci suma bopp de waaye mu ngi bind ci liñ mu ngi ci li ñu bind.
At that time, when that commission was set up in 2011,
jamono jooju ñoo taxawal commission boobu atum 2011.
is it correct to say that Yaya Jammeh himself was doing business and operating companies?
ndax mën naa wax ne Yaya Jammeh mu ngi doon def wàlli njula te doxal mu ngi jiite woon tam ay compagnie yu mu doon doxal.
That's over 10 years ago. I do not recall.
loolu du dem ci fukki at ci gannaaw la mënuma koo fàttale ko.
Well, for the record and for the commission, Yaya Jammeh was operating companies and businesses at that time.
waaye pour xamal la nag loolu mooy li xewoon Yaya Jammeh mu ngi doon doxal business amoon ay compagnie yu mu taxawal jamono boobu.
Were any of his companies called to the said tax commission?
ndax compagnie yooyu ñëpp am na kenn kuñ ci oo pour ñu ñëw teew ci kanam commission yi boobu doon saytu ni naama yi.
I think I have given you my answer. I don't recall, but I know that everything we did was recorded. It's in the records of the proceedings, and it was in the reflected in the report. So all you need to do is just go through the report, and you have the answers to all the questions you're asking.
yaakaar naa tontu naa la de mboolem luñ fàttaliku ma de waaye mboolem luñ doon defoo ñu ngi ko bind ci record yi te itamit mu ngi fa li ngay def rek mooy dem ci record yooyu seet ko da nga ko fa gis.
And the report is public document.
te itamit nag nekk na kay goo xam ne nii kayit yi ñëpp la.
Well, to refresh your memory,
waa pour fàttali la.
none of Yaya Jammeh's companies were called to attend or answer any questions during that commission.
amul benn compagnie boo xam ne bu Yaya Jammeh la boo xam ne ooyoon nañ leen pour ñu ñëw teew ci kanam commission boobu.
And just as a point of correction, you were not sitting as a judge on that commission. You were the chair commissioner of the commission.
pour leeralal la tamit nekkuloo woon jooj ci commission boobu da nga nekkoon nga xam ne moo jiite woon commission bi.
And for the record and for the commission, it is to be established that that commission was set up purposely to target certain individuals and companies.
pour ma buna dëgëral nag ci kanam commission bi nekk commission boobu nga xam ne dañ ko taxawaloon pour ñu def ay gëstu ci mbir ñi nga xam ne dañ luubal ci wàlli naama dañ leen taxawaloon pour tànn ci ay nit.
At this point, I want to move to another issue.
dama jàll nag ci beneen bunta.
I want to raise some questions about the declaration of the Gambia as an Islamic state.
léegi nag ma jàll ci beneen fànn mooy jamono ji nga xamee ne nag yéebaane nañ wone ne réewi Gambia réewi islam la.
Is it correct that you were the Minister of Justice at this time of the declaration?
dëgg la ne jamono boobu yaa nekkoon ministre bi saytu wàlli luwaay ak attey ci réew mi.
Yes, I was.
waaw jamono bu man la woon.
Can you tell this commission the advice you gave to the president after he made this declaration?
dañu mun a jox ban ndigal nga joxoon président bi gannaaw bu mu defee yéebaane bi ba pare.
I can tell you that I actually wrote an opinion about his declaration.
mun naa laa wax man ci suma bopp nag dingatoon naa nag lu jëm ci wàlli dogal boobu mu jëloon.
I cannot remember the substance of the opinion.
munuma fàttale ko nag baat ak baat li nga xam ne loolu laa waxoon ci xalaat boobu.
It's in the files.
waaye mu ngi ci file yi.
But in essence,
waaye nag ci ñu wéree.
I had informed him
yëgaloon naa ko ne.
that to declare for a state to become an Islamic state.
pour nag réew nekk nag réewam islam.
There were certain procedures that we must go through.
foog si ñu am ay saawo yoo xam ne fa la ñooy jaar.
And that
Thank you,
includes
Mr.
a referendum.
We'll get to that point.
But you asked me a question. You asked me what advice did I give. I'm telling you that I don't remember, but in essence, this is what I said.
You indicated that you had written an opinion.
Yes, I did.
I want to get on that point before we move further.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dang ko bindoon wax ko sa xalaat foofu laa bëgg ñu jëm balaa ñu continue.
We have an opinion that was from your office,
Am na xalaat bu fi amoon nag mu ngi nii bàyyee ko sa office.
signed by yourself,
Yow mi yaa ko sign.
dated the 8th of February 2016.
Juróom ñetti fan ci weeri February 2016.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, I would like the witness to look at the document. Thank you. Would it be correct to say that opinion originated from your office?
Ndax mun naa wax ne loolu nga xam ne moom lañ binda nii sa office la bàyyee ko.
Hold on, let me read it. Yes.
Is it correct that in that opinion, you were actually advising as to how the republic can be changed to an Islamic state?
Yes.
Ndax mun nañoo wax ne li nga binda foofu yaa ngi ko doon digal naka la ñoo wéccee réew mi def ko réewum Islam.
And you had even gone to the extent of making comparison from two different jurisdictions.
Def nga ko sax bay méngale ñaari béréb.
To more than two different jurisdictions.
You talked about Pakistan.
Nga mbiri Pakistan.
What other countries did you mention?
Ban réew nga
A
waxati?
few of them, but you also have to take it into context. So since we're talking to the commission and member of the public, if you see from the first paragraph of my letter and my opinion, if I may be allowed to read it.
You may read it.
mu ne comme que mbooloo mi la ñoo wax ak commission bi dañuy seet nag njëlbéeni xaaj boo xam ne nii ci lim bind.
I had said before that everything I do, I reduce it into writing. My opinions are always clear.
wax na lépp lu ma wax na dama koy def bind pour nag gis ne suma xalaat yëpp leer na.
In that letter I wrote, I refer to the verbal directive.
nga xam ne nag daal di woon naa ko ebal nag ci li nga xam ne nii mooy ndigal loo xam ne nii ay kàddu rek la woon.
Made on the 30th of December 2015.
defoon ko fanweeri fan ci weeri December 2015.
For this office, that is the Ministry of Justice.
pour nag si office bi ministre bi saytu wàlli loi ak àtte si réew mi.
To conduct research on the modalities for the effective establishment and functioning of an Islamic republic.
pour nag ñu xeñtu si anam yi nga xam ne mooy dëppoo ak tëddalin yi ñuy mën a sosé nag Islamic Republic di réewi islam.
The directive further directed that we seek guidance from systems such as Saudi Arabia, Mauritania, and Pakistan.
te tamit ñu dal di seet nag wéeru tamit ci li nga xam ne nii moo nekk ay xalaat yu tuggoo ci réew yooyu mu tudd.
Yes, so to look at it from the context.
pour seete ko nag ci ni nga xamee noonu lañ ko bindee.
I had a meeting with him.
am naa jotaay ak moom.
Informed him about the procedure that would be involved.
wax ko nag sartay anam yi nga xam ne noonu lañ ko war a doxalee.
That for a state to become Islamic, for the country to be an Islamic republic.
pour nag réew mun a nekk Islamic Republic.
This matter had to be brought to a referendum.
nekk na mbir moo xam ne foog ñu def ko ci référendum nag.
Thank you,
The Supreme Court. Let me give you context, please. That the Supreme Court had already decided.
ne Supreme Court bi nag dal dina dogal ba pare.
That Section 1 of the Constitution, which is an entrenched clause.
ci constitution bi nga xam ne nag nekk na loo xam ne ni waruñ koo génnee.
Cannot be amended without the input or the approval of the people.
manuñ koy génne manuñ koy wecci ci tey temen amuñ ndigal boo xam ne mu ngi jóge ko ci xelaati nit ñi.
That means that it has to go through a referendum.
Foog si rek mu dem nag ci wote referendum.
It was following that advice.
Di toftal nag ndigal boobu.
He still insisted that he wanted to go ahead.
Ba léegi rek mu dingal ne dafa bëgg a continuer.
That's why I refer to the verbal directive.
moo tax na ma jëm nag ci li nga xam ne mooy ndigal boo xam ne ci kàddu rek la woon.
That he made on the 30th of December.
ci li mu wax nag ni ki fanweeri fan ci weeri December.
And in the opinion.
ci li nga xam ne mooy xalaatam.
If you may allow me to guide you.
Okay.
You've talked about a referendum.
Yes.
And you've also talked about that he refused to accept that advice.
Well, he insisted on going ahead with it.
If you may look at this letter, which is dated the 15th day of February 2016, with your permission, Mr. Chair.
15th, that one is after this letter. Thank you.
The said letter was addressed to you as the minister.
Yes.
Letter bi yow lañ ko bindoon dama ne jooju yaayoon minister bi.
Can you read the context of the letter for this commission?
Yes, let me read it first.
Nga ñoo jàngal.
So this letter was dated on the 15th of February.
kon letter bi ñu ko bind fukki fan ak juróom ci weeri February.
It follows the letter that I had written dated the 8th of February.
toftal na nag letter bi ma bindoon juróom-ñetti fan ci weeri February.
And it refers to that letter.
tey tamit mu ngi jëmee nag ca letter booba.
In that letter, I had advised. That's why I wanted to go into details on that letter. In that letter, I had advised
dénku naa ko ne.
that we had conducted in-depth research as per his directive.
mooy nag ne dal dinañu def ay suñu gestu comme ci ndigalam.
At the systems of governance of 3 countries.
ci anam gi nga xam noonu lay doxalee ci nguur ak ñetti réew.
We focused on the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Malaysia.
dal dinañu seet Islamic Republic bu Pakistan, Malaysia.
And Islamic Republic of Mauritania.
ak Islamic Republic bu Mauritania.
We gave examples of the way those systems work.
ñu joxe nag ay sanction ci anam gi nga xamee noonu la mooy réew yooyu di doxee.
And we also highlighted the case, the situation, the legal system as it was, as it is.
ñu feeñal nag li nga xam ne nii moo nekk seen anam yi doxalini luwaat ni muy doxee.
And we raised the issue of judicial aspect of Islam.
ñu ekkati nag li nga xam ne nii mooy fànn bi dëppoo mbiri Islam.
And highlighted the fact that Malaysian judicial system is a bijural nature with large common law influences.
tey tamit wane ne Malaysia nag nekk na réew moo xam ne ñuy doxalee ak si ay sàtta ak ay loi lañ.
Yes, and that it had more common law influence as opposed to Islamic law influence.
ñoo gën a am nag seen loi yi nga xam ne ñoom lañ daan doxee seen biir réew ni loi yi Islam.
And I elaborated more on that.
te wax naa lu gën a yaatu nag si loolu.
And I stated that
that
as a result of that, the foregoing, that given the Gambia's unique history, culture and social family ties, and other religious groups, a hybrid structure is proposed until all conditions necessary for an effective functioning of an Islamic state. And I said that recommendations are as follows. That if he wanted to proceed, there was going to be a short-term and long-term plan. And one of the recommendations, hold on, I'm referring.
May I lead you, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Do not read all the recommendations.
No, I'm not. I'm just reading
because it is very long.
Yes, I understand.
Yes.
So I'm just reading paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 talks about the formal name. The recommendation was maintain the formal name of Republic of the Gambia on official legal documents.
moo nekkoon nag njëlbeen moo nekkoon pour continuer rek ci ni mu wéree ci loi mooy turi Gambia di Republic of the Gambia.
Since a change of name without fulfillment of all constitutional requirements will resort to adverse legal complications.
bu fekkee nag ne am nañ wecceeku te jaaru nag ci anam yi nga xam ne noonu la wéree ci loi dana fa am jafe-jafe ay rëq-rëq nag ci wàlli loi.
I also stated that it is particularly relevant in agreements and contracts.
ci laa wax ne na surtout nag ci yenn nangotoo yi la ak ay contracts yi la liggéey.
which have great benefits to the government.
yoo xam ne nag am na njëriñ bu yaatu nag ci wàlli nguur gi.
but could be challenged in court and declared null and void.
waaye nag mën nañ koo dingat ci court bi te bu boobaa nag dañ koy dàq daal ne dara amatut fa.
due to the non-fulfillment of all legal and constitutional requirements necessary.
gannaaw boo xamee nag ñàkk a motal nag lépp loo xam ne ni aajo nañ ko ci loi ak tamit ci doxalin bi ni mu waree.
I also stated that a referendum to take into consideration popular opinion on the proposal of Gambia becoming an Islamic state.
te tamit nag ràññee tamit ne lu jëm ci wàlli référendum di wote diggante waaw ak déet ànd ngeen ci wala ànduñ ci.
as well as the fulfillment of constitutional requirements for amendment of an entrenched clause.
ak tamit nag li nga xam ne nii mooy ci loi pour nag daal di am di soppali ci buntu boo xam ne nii am kenn waru koo wecci.
I also suggested that we continue to promote equality for all persons, all faith, and all gender before the law.
ci kaw loolu nag ci lañ war di continuer nag di si wàll emale goo xam ne dana nekk ci diggante diine yi diggante góor ak jigéen ak tamit ci leneen yu ci dëpp.
So there are many proposals and recommendations, but this is just some of it.
am na nag ràññeef yu bëri yoo xam ne nii bind nañ ko waaye nag yii rek mooy yenn ci ñoom.
So to go to the letter that was just handed over to me dated the 15th of February.
nag ñu dem nag si lettre bi nga xam ne moom lañ ma bind fukki fan ak juróom si weeri février.
From the office of the Secretary General.
jógee ko ci office Secretary General bi.
The Secretary General signed the letter.
Secretary General bi signé lettre boobu.
And he was conveying an executive directive.
te moom nag mu ngi doon àggale ak ndogal digal boo xam ne ni mu ngi jógee ko ci président bi.
To the effect that.
ci anam bu ne.
that the Gambia will continue to be called Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
ne Gambia dafay dañ koy continuer di ko ooyee Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
And that the republic will adhere to the status of a truly Islamic and not a pseudo-Islamic Christian state.
te tamit nag dana nekk nag loo xam ne dafa wane ne Islamic Republic la waaye du republic boo xam ne diggante Islam ak Christianity.
And the republic would have all the attributes of an Islamic state within 5 years.
te tamit nag dana am lépp loo xam ne ni aajo na ko di Islamic Republic si diirab juróomi at.
He also directed that therefore.
ci la bind tamit de wax joxe ndigal ne kon.
to task my office.
sas nag suma office.
to work on the constitution.
ñu liggéey nag ci constitution lu ay réew mi.
and take note that there will be no referendum on this issue.
te tamit ñu xam nag ne amul benn wote diggante déet ak waaw boo xam ne dañ ko def si mbir mi.
that the task force should initiate action.
ne task force boobu noonu nag foog si dañu jël ay jéego.
to establish institutions of Islamic State with Sharia laws.
foog si ñu jaaral institution léew islamique boo xam ne ni danañ am ay Sharia loo ay Sharia.
analogous to the functioning of Islamic State of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, and Mauritania.
doxalin bi nga xam ne mu ngi nekk islamique bu réewi arab yooyu mu tudd noonu.
that the Sharia judicial system
ne ate Sharia bi
should be fully fledged by 30 December 2021.
te ne dana war a dox nag niki ñaar fukki fan fanweeri fan ci weeri December atum 2021.
that in the process of requisite institutions should be set up.
ci kaw nag yi nga xam ne ni mooy buntu liggéeykaay yi koy war a doxal foog si ñu taxawal leen.
trainees identified for formal training.
ràññee ay njàng yoo xam ne nii pour yenn njàngal.
in Sharia jurisprudence and Sharia courts function.
si ni nga xam ne noonu la ñuy doxalee lépp loo xam ne mu ngi aju ci wàlli kooti Sharia yi la ak tamit lu ay Sharia yi.
that is it. That is all.
kon nag foofu la leetar bi jeexee.
And that letter was addressed to yourself.
letter boobu nag yow lañ ko yónnee woon.
Yes, it was addressed to my office.
waaw ñu ko yónnee suma office.
Can you read the addressee in that letter?
Attorney General, Minister of Justice.
letter bi nag mu ngi jëm ci Attorney General, ministre bi saytu wàlli.
May I have the letter,
loi ak
please?
atte.
The letter was personally addressed to you.
If it was personally addressed to me, it would have been Mama Fatima Singhate. It was addressed to my office as Attorney General Counsel.
bu fekkee ne letter bi dañ ma ko jëwoon suma tur lañ fa doon bind Mama Fatima Singhate.
The letter was addressed the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Then it said Ministry of Justice. So it was addressed to you as you held that position at that particular time.
Minister bi nga xamne mo saytu wàllu loi ak àtte ci office minister bi saytu mbiri loi ak àtte bon te yow yaa fa nekkoon.
Can you tell this commission the actions you took after you received the directive dated the 15th of February 2016?
nga mëna wax commission bi nak lan nga def gannaaw boo jotee letter bi nga xamne ñu ngi ko bindoon fukki fan ak juroom ci at.
I believe there was a task force.
yaakaar naa amoon na genn kuréel goo xam ne ni muy task force.
Chaired by the Secretary General.
jiite ko nag di Secretary General bi.
Consisting of some personalities.
nga xam ne ni boo ko na ci nag di ay yenn nit.
May I stop you there?
Okay.
I believe you replied to the directive.
Foog naa tontu woon nga de.
On a letter dated the 14th March 2016.
Letter buñ binda fukki fan ak ñeneen weeri March 2016.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I would like the witness to see this letter.
Thank you.
That letter is a reply to the directive you received.
Letter bobu dang ko tontu ci ndigal yi nga xamne mom nga jotoon.
And in the same letter, you're actually referring to the opinion you had sent initially.
Te tay ci letter bi de yang ci do wax mbiri yow li won sa gis-gis ci letter bang leen jëkkoon a yónnee.
Is it correct that in this letter you indicated that a task force should be set up?
Ndax mun nañoo wax ne letter bi waxoon nga ci ne nañ tànn ay jàmbur.
Actually, the task force was already instructed to be set up in that letter, the previous letter of the 15th of February.
ci letter bi jiitu bi nag ci lañ joxe woon ndigal ne daal way tànneef yooyu noonu jàmbur yooyu nañ leen sos.
And in this letter, I refer to the directive in said letter, referring to the task force to initiate action.
te letter bi nag liñ ci wax mooy comme task force di jàmbur yooyu ñu santoon nañ jël ay jéego.
So it is therefore correct that in this letter you created the task force.
I did not create the task force. I sent recommendations of names for the task force.
Can you read the recommendations you sent for the task force?
Yes. I said, I hereby forward the following names for persons for the attention of His Excellencies to constitute a task force.
Mangi wax ne mangi ebal joxe nak xelaat pour ñu ci tour yu nga xamne ñom lay tuddu ci His Excellency nak pour task force comme way comme penci jambur yoy nga xamne ñom lañ wax ni ñu tan.
And the following people were proposed.
ñi nak ñom lañ tuddon
Alhaji Ousmane Dia.
Alhaji Ousmane Dia.
Kadi Omar Seka.
Kadi Omar Seka.
Alhaji Essa Dabo.
Alhaji Essa Dabo.
Alhaji Mbai Saho.
Alhaji Mbai Saho.
Dr. Omar Dia.
Dr. Omar Dia.
Mrs. Marie Sen.
Mrs. Marie Sen.
Dr. Abubakar Senghor.
Dr. Abubakar Senghor.
Mr. Lamin Kamara.
Mr. Lamin Kamara.
Mr. Abdoulaye Ba.
Mr. Abdoulaye Ba.
Those were the names that were recommended.
ñoy tour yi nga xamne nak yom lañ.
Was the task force set up?
Yes, the task force was set up.
Waaw jambur yoy na taxawalon nañ leen.
And the aim of the task force was to now find a way of implementing the Islamic State of the Gambia.
I think it was more like looking at the feasibility of the Islamic State.
Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
I think it was on the feasibility of establishing an Islamic State.
Which goes to the same thing as they were set up to find a way that they could implement this directive that had stated that Gambia should change to an Islamic state.
If you say so.
Yes, I do. I believe you have your constitution with you.
Yes, I do.
May you open part 3, where it says legislative and other powers of the National Assembly.
What section?
100.
Yes.
You will see that on the section 1,
di nga gis
101.
fi ñoo wax section 101.
It says the legislative power of the Gambia shall be exercised by bills passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the President. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which means in interpretation that even the President cannot make laws. It is only the National Assembly that makes laws.
liñ fa wone day mooy ne président bi sax munta defar benn loi néegi député yi rek ñoom am doole pour defar loi.
That's very clear.
Thank you. At this point, I would like you to read subsection 2 of section 100 to the Commission.
ci beneen xeet wi nga xam ne mooy subsection 2 nga jàngal ñu ko.
That the National Assembly shall not pass a bill to establish a one-party state, establish a... Yeah.
ne néegi député duñ àggale na benn taxawal benn loi pour nag gis ne benn parti state dana am.
Establish a religion as a state religion.
Teet benn diine nag daal mooy nekk diine réew mi.
And alter the decision or judgment of a court in any proceedings.
ak itamit génne nag li nga xam ne ni mooy dogali court boo xam ne ni muy doxee.
Thank you, Ms. Singhate.
You're welcome.
I think section 2B of the Constitution is stated clearly,
section 2B ci wàllu loi
with no ambiguity. It says the National Assembly shall not pass.
wax na ne néegi député yi day waru ñoo.
Shall not pass.
duñ feeñal dara ci wàlli bunta boobu.
A bill.
muy loi boo xam ne.
to establish any religion as a state religion.
taxawal benn diina boo xam ne mooy nekk diina réew ma.
Isn't that the advice that should have been given to the president when he declared a state to be Islamic?
loolu mooy ndigal li nga waroon a jox président bi bi mu waxee ne réew mi dafa war a nekk réewu islam.
That there was no need to write opinions actually comparing other jurisdictions, etc., on Islamic implementations.
jarutoon sax ngay méngale ci yeneen réew lu aju ci wàlli doxalini islam.
And what makes you think I did not advise that?
lan nga foog lan moo tax nga foog ne daal joxuma ko digal boobu.
Well, you have told the Commission that you write very well.
Yes, I do.
It was not in your opinion.
It was not. I refer to a verbal directive after a discussion I had with His Excellency.
Everything you said in that verbal directive was actually stated mainly in the letter that you read, which gave you the directive to go ahead and implement the Islamic State.
I gave the advice verbally, and he responded and gave a verbal directive, and I implemented and reduced that verbal directive into writing, and still went ahead with the process of implementation.
dama ko yedda nag ci ay cadeau ñun ci cadeau mu dal di joxe ndigal ci cadeau nag ci la bind nag lii ci ay kayit.
And the process of implementation
ci anam yi niñ koy doxalee nag
includes
boole nañ ci nag ne
the issue of a referendum.
lu jëm ci wàllu wote diggante waaw ak déet ñu xamee ko referendum.
So no matter however you take it, no matter how up and however you look at it,
ak noo ko munti xoolee noo ko munti gisee.
it would still become an issue for the decision for the people of the Gambia.
ba léegi rek dafay nekk dogal boo xam ne mu ngi jëm ci wàllu nit ci Gambia.
So whatever you look at it, however you look at it, a referendum would still be required.
noo ko gisee rek referendum foog si rek ñu def ko.
And then the people would decide on what they want.
kon nit ñi danañu seet nag ci lan lañ bëgg.
And that would have been the end of it.
tamit nag ci la doon di mujjee.
Actually, Mr.
Council, before you continue with that one, Commissioner Jones wanted to raise a point of order. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Council, it will be very helpful to the Commission if Ms. Singhate can read the response to the letter, the executive directive received on 15th of February, because we are missing some content from her response. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll hand back the letter to her to be read.
She's to read the entire letter.
Thank you. Would you like me to read the whole letter?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Reference is invited to reference number. That was the letter I had sent to the office of the President.
li nga xam ne ni mu ngi jëbal bopp na ci lettre bi nga xam ne moom lañ njëkk a jël ci office of the president bi.
On the above.
ci liñ bind nii ci kaw.
and hereby convey executive directive
ak fi mu nekk ni fii nag ñu ngi àggale nag li nga xam ne nii mooy ndigal loo xam ne mu ngi jógee ko ci président bi.
to the effect that the Gambia will be called an Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
pour commencer nag di Gambia di muy Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
And the republic would adhere to the status of truly Islamic and not a pseudo-Islamic Christian state.
Tamit nag bu boobaa nag dana nekk na réew moo xam ne nii dafay doxee nii Islamic réew waaye du na boo xam ne nii Islam ak Christian réew.
That the republic will have all the attributes of an Islamic state within 5 years.
Tamit nag dana am lépp loo xam ne nii lamboo na ko nag di Islamic state ci diirab juróomi at.
The directive further tasks you
kon nag ndigal bi dal dina la jox ndigal.
to work on the constitution.
Pour nag ñu liggéey ci constitution di loi republic bi.
Sorry, Ms. Singhate, I'll interject. I meant the response to the letter that was dated on the 15th, not the letter that came from the SG. Your response to the letter, whereby you gave recommendations. And could you please cite the date as well, please?
Yes, it says the 14th of March.
Li na fukki fan ak ñeenti ci weeri March la.
And I indicated
tamit wane naa fa.
that I refer to the letter dated the 15th of February
letter bi nga xam ne ñu ngi ko bind fukki fan ak juróom ci weeri February.
with reference number.
Reference number bi.
The reference is indicated.
Wane nañ ko fa.
Which was a response to my letter of the 8th of February.
Nga xam ne nii mooy tontu suma letter bi bindoon fukki fan ak juróom-ñetti fan ci weeri February.
The directive given in said letter
ci ndigal bi nga xam ne moom lañ bind ci letter boobu.
was inter alia.
Moom nag ca njëlbeen.
In quotes.
Comme ni nga xam ne noonu lañ ko tànnee loolu lañ ci seppee.
A task force to initiate action.
Ne nag am na pour kuréel goo xam ne nag mu jël ay jéego.
To establish the institutions.
Pour nag mu dal di taxawal nag buntu boo xam ne nii.
Of an Islamic state with Sharia laws.
Yu jëppook Islamic state ànd ak luwaay sare.
Analogous to the functioning of Islamic State of Saudi Arabia.
Loo xam ne dina mel ni Islamic state bu Saudi Arabia.
Iran, Pakistan and Mauritania.
Iran, Pakistan ak Mauritania.
End of quote.
Ñu dal di jeexal nag nañ ko seppee.
And I continued.
Ma continuer.
In this regard.
Ci kaw bunta boobu nag.
I forward the following names for person.
Maa ngi ebal nag ñi turi nit ñi nga xam ne moom mu leen a lim si nii.
For His Excellency to select.
Pour nag His Excellency mu tànn.
To constitute the task force for work to commence.
Pour continuer nag task force boobu di way pencam jàmbur yooyu nag pour ñu continuer commencer.
The executive directive above.
Ci ndigal li nga xam ne nii mu ngi jóge ko ci président bi ci fii ni ñu ko feeñalee ci kaw.
And the following persons were proposed.
Nit ñi muy tudd si nii nag ñoom lañ ci xalaatoon.
Would you like me to go through the names, the list?
Yes, please, you may continue.
Dr. Alaji Usman Jah. I have number 1, Alaji Usman Jah.
No, continue.
Continue.
Wow.
Kadi Omar Seka, Alaji Esa Dabo, Alaji Mbai Saho, Dr. Omar Jah, Mrs. Marisen, Dr. Abubakar Senghor, Mr. Lamin Kamara, Mr. Abdoulaye Ba.
Tur yooyu mu tudd nag mooy ñi nga xam ne nii ñoom lañ xalaatoon pour ñu nekk pencum jàmbur yooyu nga xam ne nii ñooy task force bu waral na doxal mbir mooy.
Yeah.
Is that the end of your response?
Yes. The rest is a proposal that in order to be more productive, the task force should be kept small.
Please just read to the end of the letter.
Yeah.
That's it. I hand it over back to the chairman. It's just
Okay.
the content of the letter.
Okay, it's proposed that in order to be more productive, the task force be kept small.
Nag seen committee pencam weytaan ñooñu dañ war naa nekk lu néew.
His Excellency is hereby requested to choose 4 or 5 persons from the persons listed above.
Tamit président bi ñeent ba juróomi nit rek lay tànn nag ci ñooñu nga xam ne ñoom lañ doon tudd sànq ci gannaaw.
If the need arises, assistance could be sought from other persons for specific purposes.
Bu fekkee nag ne aajo nañ ko nag danañ war a aw ndimbal ci ñeneen.
It is further proposed that the office of the president could chair this task force.
Te tamit nag xalaat nañu tamit ne ñii di ku penci jàmbur yooyu noonu nag office of the president ñoom ñooy leen ay jiite.
To ensure transparency.
Pour gis ne njub.
Expeditious compliance with timelines.
Ak tamit nag mu gaaw ànd ak li nga xam ne loolu lañ natt si waxtu bi mu war a sotti.
And the Ministry of Justice will coordinate the affairs of the task force.
te ministre bi saytu wàlli loi ak àtte ci réew mi danañ taxaw nag li nga xam ne mooy doxalini comité woy tànneef yooyu.
Should His Excellency have any other person in mind,
bu fekkee nag ne président bi am na keneen koo xam ne nii xalaat na ko ci.
they could also be added to the list above.
mun nañ ko boole nag ci limi ñi nga xam ne ñoom lañ tudd ci gannaaw ci kaw.
The foregoing is hereby submitted for executive approval.
ci lii nag daal dinañ ko àggale nag pour ñu wéral ko.
Or for the directive.
wala tamit ci yeneen i ndigal.
That is it.
la letter bi am.
Thank you. I hand it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Council, can you pass the letter for the commissioners to see, please?
Yes. Mr. Usher, can you take the letter round? We shall tender these documents
Yes, I know.
at the ending of the proceedings.
Perhaps, it might be helpful if we see the documents as well.
Yes.
Before tendering. Otherwise, the commissioners wouldn't have seen. Thank you very much. You may proceed, Council, please.
Thank you. Ms. Singhate.
Yes.
Looking at the provision in the Constitution,
Yes.
which has clearly stated that the National Assembly cannot pass any bill to change this country into any other sort of state, in particular when it comes to religion. This advice should have been made clear in writing to the President, since you're very good with writing and everything. This action put us in chaos, as the Christians got confused. Even us Muslims, especially legal practitioners, got confused. Because we were worried and did not know what sort of state we would be in, and what laws would be governing us. The directive should not have been followed to actually recommend people to start a task force.
Would you
like me to respond?
If you want to.
Yes. I know that there are other correspondences relating to this subject matter. And from those correspondences, you will see even the task force when it was set up, the members of the task force were quite hesitant, because they knew that this was something that cannot happen immediately. So what they were talking about is trying to see how to convince the president to maintain the status quo and walk towards a future. There was a recommendation of time frame, I don't recall, but it's in the letter.
Ms. Singhate, it was not the responsibility of the task force to convince the president. It was your responsibility as the advisor to advise him according to the law, especially the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution.
I hear you, Council, but what the Council, you should know, you should be aware of, and what this commission needs to be aware of, and what the members of the public listening in need to be aware of.
Council, yow li nga wara xam ak kilifa yi nga xam ne ñoo sekk commission bi liñ wara xam ak nit ñi ñuy déglu liñ wara xam
that because even though I am the principal legal advisor,
naam sax ndax man maa nekkoon principal legal advisor bi di kii yedd nag ci nguur gi.
and yes, I'm supposed to advise on the law.
tey nag waaw dama ko war a yedd nag lu jëm ci wàlli loi bi.
But the president had other advisors,
ne waaye nag président bi am na ñeneen ñoo xam ne ñoo koy yedd de.
including religious advisors.
bokk na ci nag ñi nga xam ne ñoo koy yedd ci wàlli diine.
So if my advice
bu fekkee nag ne suma yedd li ma ko war a yedd.
as a lawyer
ne lawyer la.
is in conflict with a religious advisor,
féewaloo na ak li nga ki nga xam ne moo koy yedd nag ci wàlli diine.
knowing that this is what he wants,
pour xam nag ne lii la bugg.
there is no way that he would accept my advice.
kon nag amul benn anam boo xam ne ni dana dégg nag li ma koy wax.
But my advice has always been there.
waaye nag li ma ko daan yedd waxtu wu ne mu nga fa rek.
And it was clear.
tey tamit leeroon na.
So if based on his religious advisor,
bu fekkee nag ni su ko nekkoon nag ci ki nga xam ne ni moo ko doon di yedd ci wàlli diine.
still wanted to proceed with
mu
it,
bugg a continuer ak li nga xam ne ni moo nekk yéebaaneem.
then that was up to him.
kon nag loolu dafa desoon ci moom rek.
He was the elected official.
moom nag moo nekkoon ki nga xam ne moom lañ tànnoon ci di kilifa.
He was the one voted into office by the people.
moom la nit ñi tànnoon mu dal di ko jiital ci réew mi.
So the people in the end would have to decide.
kon nag nit ñi mujjee gi ñoom dañuy war a ñoom ñooy dogal.
Ms. Singhate,
That's it.
the religious leaders cannot advise the president on the constitution. Again, that was your role. And the opinion that has been seen before this commission did not table that aspect of the constitution. Instead, it continued to give him the courage that he could change this country into an Islamic state. And stated ways, and even compared with other jurisdictions. We cannot buy that. That he took advice from religious leaders. If he was not taking your advice, then it means your position was vacant. You were just there.
That's your opinion.
Well, that's what you stated, that he was not taking, if he does not take your advice, you stated it. What use does it make? If you advise he does something different, if it was someone else, they might even resign because then they're no longer fulfilling the position that they're sitting in.
I
was actually carrying on my responsibility issuing advice. The responsibility for accepting the advice does not rest upon me.
maa ngi doon def li ma war ne man dama ko waroon a yedd waaye nag pour mu nangu yedd li ma ko doon yedd loolu aju ci sumay mbagg de.
That one is not within my purview.
loolu nekkutoon ci suma ron.
You did not advise the president accordingly as stated in the constitution.
That's
your opinion.
loolu mooy sa xalaat.
And we will leave it to the commission to decide on the issues before them. At this point, I would like to move to the issue about the political persons that were arrested and detained in April of 2016.
April 2016.
We have evidence that several people were arrested and detained in April. 2016.
2016.
And all the offenses they were charged with were bailable. But your office denied them bail. Can you tell the commission why this was the situation?
Can you be specific as to the people that were arrested? I don't know what you're talking about.
FATIMA Jawara, Njogonjai, etc. Sure, those two names I've named will make you remember.
Fatoumata Jawara Nogoy Njie ñaari tur yo rep mala ko waxe di nga fatale ko.
Well, you know that bail is granted by the court, not the AG's chambers.
waaye ndax xam nga ne bail court bi ñoo koy joxe waaye du AG's chamber bi.
You also know that arrest and detention is done by the police and not the AG's chambers.
te tamit xam nga ne jàpp ak technique benn place ñi koy def mooy police te nekkul AG's chamber.
So I'm surprised that you asked me that question.
te kon jaaxal na ma lool pour fekkee nga laaj ma koy laajte yooyu.
As the advisor to the people
Comme yow yaay digal nit ñi
and responsible
te yow sa warugal la
for the administration of justice,
pour doxal li nga xam ne moo di digg
when these atrocities came
bu xew-xew yu mel ni amee
to your attention,
te yow nga yëg ko
that women in particular
ne jigéen surtout
were being arrested,
ñu ngi leen jàppa
were being beaten,
ñu ngi leen dóor
were being detained
ñu ngi leen taaj benn béréb
over 72 hours,
lu weesu ñetti fan
you should have taken action.
waroon nga ci def dara de.
How do you know I knew that? At the time.
I will get to that.
How do
The
you know I
lawyers.
knew that at the time?
The lawyers
mu ne ko lawyer yi
who were defending
ñi nga xam ne ñoo taxawaloon
these women
jigéen yi
would always want to make an application for bail.
saa yu nekk dañoo bëgg a bind pour ñu beel leen
And the DPP then
jamono booba nag ka nekkoon DPP
would say to them, his hands are tied and he would have to talk to the Attorney General before he can make any decisions.
ne moom day loxoom yi dafa tënku foog mu wax ak Attorney General balaa moo def benn dogal
That is how I know it was.
noonu la
That is news to me. That is news to me.
loolu de xibaar la ci man.
Because I have never gone to court to actually argue a bail application.
ndax mosuma dem ci benn court pour daggante na lu aju ci wàllu bail.
So for DPP to say that he was waiting on instructions from the Attorney General,
kon nag bu fekkee ni DPP bi wax na ne mu ngi xaar ndigal lu jóge ko ci Attorney General bi.
when he had the discretion to decide,
pour fekkee te fekk am na dogal pour dogal.
I'm surprised.
kon nag jaaxal na ma.
We know during that time the DPP did not have a discretion.
xamoon nañ ne jamono boobu de DPP bi amutoon dogal
That everything that was being done in the country, in the judiciary, in the courts,
ne lépp lu ñoo def ci réew mi ci attekaay bi
was directed by Yaya Jammeh.
ne yëpp de Yaya Jammeh moo ko doon dogal
And the DPP would obviously have to get instructions from you as you receive the directions from Yaya Jammeh.
DPP tamit ndigal ci yow la ko war a jëlee comme yow ni ngaa jëlee ndigal rek ci Yaya Jammeh
And the directives.
ak ni ñoo dogal
I can assure you that that was not the case in this instance.
Okay. I'll leave that to the Commission to decide.
Please do.
On the issue further,
ma bàyyee loolu commission bi nag ñoom ñu àtte
it was all over the news, all over the world,
mu ngi woon ci àddina si yëpp xibaar yëpp
and it was heard by everybody
te ku nekk déggoon na ko
that these women in particular
ne jigéen ñi surtout
were arrested,
dañ leen jàppa
were beaten,
dóor leen
were kept in detention
ñu taaj leen benn béréb
when the charges levied against them
nga xam ne li nga xam ne moom lañ leen tuumaal bi ñu leen teg
were bailable.
mënoon nañ leen ci biir
So you ought to have known,
waroon nga koo mun a
and
xam
you ought to have done the necessary.
waroon ngaa def nag li nga xam ne moo ci war
As the Attorney General yourself, you're even allowed to appear before the courts based on the Constitution.
yow mi nga xam ne sax yaay ministre bi jiite wàlli atte ak luwaay yi mënoon ngaa teew ci court bi sax suñu sukkandikoo ci luwaay yi
You yourself could have appeared and told the court, we are not opposing bail in these matters.
mënoon ngaa dem ci court bi de nga ne leen ñu ndey bañuñ pour ñu bail ñi
Being a woman, being an activist, being someone who has always handled women issues.
ngay jigéen ngay nit koo xam ne jamono ju ci nekk dang dee taxaw pour xeexal jigéen
I can assure you I did not know.
mën naa la gaaral ne xaw ma woon ko.
We will leave that issue for the Commission to decide.
boobu itam
Very
nañ ko
well.
bàyyil commission bi
We also have information
am nañ beneen digal xibaar tamit
that when Fatou Camara
ne bi Fatou Camara
was arrested,
biñ ko jàppee
you were given directives
dañ la joxoon digal ne
by the President, then Yaya Jammeh,
te ndigal loolu day président Yaya Jammeh moo la ko joxoon
to ensure that she will be charged with an offense.
pour nga gis ne tuumaal nañ ko ne dafa am dara lum def
I can assure you that's definitely not true. And I say so because an opinion was written on that case and it went through the usual process that it usually goes through. The person who wrote the opinion is alive and well, and he recommended for the discharge of the case. DPP approved it. It came upstairs, we approved it. So that one I can assure you most definitely is not true. That assertion is most definitely false.
That assertion is true because you even had a meeting with officials from the NIA headquarters about how you could prosecute Fatou Camara.
That is false. That is most definitely false. That is most definitely false. And this forum being a truth commission, you should base your allegations on truth and not on hearsay. That I can assure you 100% is false. I never met any NIA. I never discussed this case. The only person I discussed this case with was the DPP when he suggested his opinion and I approved. So that one is completely and utterly false and ridiculous. I would emphatically deny it 100%, 150%.
We will allow the commission to decide on the issues.
The commission can decide.
However, you were aware that she was detained at mile 2.
I was not aware.
At NIA.
I was not aware. I was not aware. This incident happened in October. I assumed office in August. The only time I knew about it was when I saw the case file. And even I myself accepted that, yes, there was no case against her. Every allegation that was made against her was just relating to her personal decisions and had nothing to do with law. That one I can assure you 100%.
Are you telling this commission that you were not in office at the time of Fatou Camara's detention?
I was in office. I was telling you, I just assumed office. I assumed office in August. This incident happened in October. So I was telling you that I was familiar with the case. I saw it, but I know for a fact that I did not meet with NIA, and I know for a fact that the opinion that was written by counsel for the state in the criminal division was approved by me, approved by DPP and endorsed by me for the case to be discharged. That one I can tell you for free.
Ms. Singhate, for clarification, were you the AG at the time?
I was. I'm telling you, it was in the earlier part.
Can you allow me to finish my questions and don't talk over me?
Go ahead.
Yes. To clarify, were you the minister at the time Fatou Camara was arrested and detained?
I believe I was.
You were the minister. And further, you were aware that she was detained at NIA.
No, I was not. It was until I received the case file.
And she was detained for 25 days.
Again,
Without trial?
I do not know.
Without trial? Without access to a lawyer? And without access to her family? And you were aware, or you ought to have been aware, as the minister?
I could not have been aware because I was not the person detaining her. It wasn't my ministry that detained her. I could not have aware because I was not the one who charged her or arrested her. I could not have been aware. The only time I became aware was when the file was brought to my desk to endorse the discharge of the suspect.
Munumon ko yek ndax du ton man ñoko tegon suma department ñoko tegon tuma ñoko téwon.
Ms. Singhate, this matter was all over the media. And I know you listen to the media. Further to that, the file got to your office while she was still in detention. So it cannot be that your office or yourself did not know that she was in detention at Baba Dinka for 25 days unlawfully. In any event, if your office was even waiting further on investigations, etc. She should have been released on bail pending investigation. Because as per the Constitution, you cannot hold a person more than 72 hours without a charge.
That's your testimony.
And even though You were not the officer or the institution in charge of arrest and detention.
Dëgg la sax de yow nekkuloo woon ki nga xam ne wala béréb bi nga xam ne yéen a waroon saytu ni nga xam ne noonu lañ ko jàppee ak niñ ko tegee benn béréb.
You were fully aware of arrests that were going on rampantly in this jurisdiction.
waaye terewut xamoon nga jàpp yi nga xam ne ñu ngi ko doon nekk di jàpp nit ñi rek ci biir réew mi.
We all knew.
ñëpp xam nañ ko.
But everybody was afraid to tell Yaya Jammeh the truth.
waaye ñëpp a ragaloon nag pour wax
And
Yaya
because of that,
Jammeh
people's rights were violated in this jurisdiction.
ragal googu nag moo tax ba yellee fi nit yëpp ñu yàq ko ci réew mi fii.
At this point, I shall be moving to the next issue,
ma jàll ci beneen fànn.
which is your role
nga xam ne sa taxawaay la.
and the activities
ak yëngu yi.
that you held
nga xam ne
during
moom nga def jamono jooju.
the impasse
ci jamono ji nga xamee ne président bi mu ngi bañoon ne du wàcc.
that this country suffered.
coono gi nga xam ne moom la ci réew mi dajoon.
Can you tell this commission the position you were holding during the impasse?
wax ñu nag ban place nga yore woon jamono boobu.
I was the Minister of Justice.
maa nekkoon ministre bi saytu wàlli loi ak atte ci réew mi.
And it is correct that you attended a meeting where the president declared that he was not accepting the results.
No,
ndax
I
dëgg la
wasn't.
ne
I
teewe
wasn't.
woon nga meeting bi jamono ji président bi wax ne nanguwul result yi ci
No,
élection.
I didn't.
déedéet teewuma woon ci meeting boobu.
During the impasse, did you attend any meeting with the president?
am na benn meeting boo xam ne defoon nga ko ak président bi jamono jooju mu bañee wàcca.
What is the impasse?
lan mooy impasse bi féewaloo politique boobu.
The period where Yaya Jammeh refused to leave this jurisdiction after he legally lost the elections.
moolu mooy jamono ji Yaya Jammeh bañee génn réew mi gannaaw bu mu daanoo ci élection bi.
Perhaps we need to clarify a few things.
yaakaar naa foog ñu leeral yenn mbir fii.
That the mandate of the president expired after the 17th of January 2017.
ne mandat yi président bi dana jeex fukki fan ak juróom-ñaar ci weeri.
Mr. Singhate, I know the
No,
law.
please.
I know the law just as you do.
May I answer
Excuse
the
me.
question?
The point is, the president made a declaration that he is not accepting the results of the election and that he is not leaving the jurisdiction. Isn't that correct?
am naa luwaa de président bi dafa ne moom nanguwut élection yi ñi nga xam ne noonu la tëree te bon du génn réew mi.
You asked
Isn't
the
that
question.
correct?
You cannot ask me to answer a question the way you want me to answer it. I would answer it the
Ms.
way
Singhate,
I can answer
with
it.
this question is just a yes or a no.
There's no such thing as a yes or no answer.
There is.
No, there isn't.
Okay, so I am putting it to you that the president did refuse the election results and refused to leave the jurisdiction.
I am saying the president, yes, lost the election.
man laa wax ne la président bi nag daanu woon na ci wote bi de.
And yes, conceded to the election loss.
te nangu woon bu njëkk ci daanu boobu.
And then changed his mind as to the loss of election.
On a Friday, as usual.
He
always makes his announcements on Friday.
At least allow me to answer.
Go
And
ahead.
this was triggered by the declaration by IEC of two conflicting election results.
lii nag li ko waraloon moo nekk ne IEC ñoom it seen déclaration boo xam ne def nañ ko ci ñaari bunt wote boo xam ne ni féewaloo nañ ci mbiri Konte.
This resulted to the president declaring that he no longer accepts the results.
lii nag taxoon na ba président bi mujjee gi mu ne daal moom nangootut results yi.
And it's
at this
normal
stage-
for an election to
and
be
at this
contested.
stage, what did you advise the president as the advisor?
jamono boobu
Can you
la ko
listen?
digal.
Can you listen? At least may I be allowed to speak? You asked an open-ended question. Let me answer. His refusal to accept the election result is his right.
ni mu bañee nag ne daal du nangu nag wote bi li ci jóge ko di election results yi loolu yelleefam la.
What we all know
ñun li ñu xam ñëpp de mooy.
is once his mandate expired,
mooy gannaaw boo xamee mandaam bi jeex na.
he would have to step down.
dafa war a wàcc.
And his mandate would have expired after the 17th of January.
tey tamit mandaam dafa war a jeex gannaaw fukki fan ak juróom-ñaar ci weeri January.
And he refused or reversed his decision to concede on the 9th of December.
te tamit dafa bañoon nag li nga xam ne nii mooy ne daanu na juróom-ñeenti fan ci weeri December.
So you don't expect me to say yes to him refusing to step down because he was still president. There was no need for him to step down until the 17th of January.
te sentu woon ñu wax ne ko waaw ne fu mu wàcc ndax boobu ba léegi mooy président bi ndax mandaam dafa jeex fukki fan ak juróom-ñaar ci weeri January.
I'm sorry, Ms. Singhate. It was unlawful.
Ms. Singhate andul ak loi.
And as it had been said by the Bar Association,
Comme ni ko mbootaay lawyer yi waxee.
and followed by many others after,
Gannaaw bi sax ñu ci bari moom lañ toppa.
Yaya Jammeh caused treason
Yaya Jammeh nag lim defoon mooy suufu nguur.
by refusing the election results
Su fekkee ne dafa bañ élection yi dafa mel ni mu ngi suufu
and
nguur.
refusing to step down.
Mu bañ na du wàcca.
And he caused chaos.
Tax na ba indi woon na fi fitna.
As you would see, mothers, children, etc. had to flee out of this jurisdiction
Ndaxte gisoon nga yaaya ki doomam di daw di génn réew mi.
because of his unlawful declaration.
Ndekte li nga xam ne moom la wax te àndu la loi.
Can
We
we
should
not
accept
confuse
that.
this, please? Can we not confuse this situation, please?
We are not confusing the situation.
No, you are making your own assertion. You were not there. I was there. So allow me to speak. And I'm not here to hold brief for President Jammeh. I am telling you what I saw and what I experienced. So if I may be allowed to speak, I can tell you. I know the whole nation is curious as to what happened during the impasse. And since I was there, I can tell you about my own lived experience.
Ms. Singhate,
please.
The point is, there was an election.
Singhate wax ji mooy amoon na sànnim karta bu amoon.
There was a winner.
Am na ku gagné.
There was a declared president.
Te waxoon nañ kan moo war a nekk président bi.
Yaya Jammeh conceded.
Yaya Jammeh nangu.
As usual, he flipped.
Comme nim ko daan defee rek.
He changed his mind
dal di wecci xelam.
and said, I own the Gambian people. I cannot let this go.
Did he say that?
Maa moom waa Gambia te duma nangu lii.
He changed.
Dafa wecceeku.
And he said he was no longer leaving the seat.
Ne moom de du wàccaati toogu ba.
That's not the way I saw it. And I was there. And I would like to refer you to Section 49 of the Constitution.
At this point, I had asked you whether you had attended a meeting after Yaya Jammeh had lost the elections and refused to leave the jurisdiction.
He
couldn't have refused to leave the jurisdiction because he was still in office. Okay. His mandate expired on the 17th of January. So unless that was when between the 9th of December and the 17th of January was what the impasse was all about. Anything after, he would have lost his mandate to stay in office.
It is clear that the president had said then, Yaya Jammeh, he will not leave. So we were not looking at the expiry date of his term, etc. He had already caused the treason by refusing the election results and saying he is not leaving the jurisdiction.
That's your opinion, but that's not true. That's a false assertion.
And I raised the question, which was simple, which referred to, did you attend any meeting where after the elections that Yaya Jammeh lost and did not leave? Did you attend a meeting during that period?
I attended a number of meetings up to the time my mandate expired on the 17th of January 2017.
Okay. At this point, I will show you a particular meeting that you attended. Obi-Wan, can you play the video, please? Obi-Wan
made it clear that the results are, no matter what we do, it's not going to change the result. But at the same time also they announced two results. After announcing the first one, then came back the same day, both of which were also signed by the IEC chairman. And then they came and said, this is what has happened. Now, it is unacceptable. So, what we are asking for is to go back to the electorate under an completely independent electoral commission that would supervise the elections as we used to do before without having any problem, and allow every Gambian to vote. But it is abnormal that you set up a time frame. In any country, anywhere in the world, I've been watching elections. If people are already at the polling station, you allow them to vote. So the if I must accept what all votes.
We met with the Attorney General, and we're very proud of her. She's one of the several women we met when we went to Burundi. It was also a woman that was Attorney General of Burundi. And she received us very well. And lucky enough for us, in the African Bar Association, our Vice President for West Africa is a woman.
Can you stop this video?
In the country and in the cabinet, there cannot be any problem. Because
Obi-Wan, can you stop the video? Sorry, Mr. Chair. It seems like there was a mix-up with the videos that were played. However, the video that was played showed Yaya Jammeh giving an excuse as to how he would not accept the election results. It is clear that he caused treason. And should not have been giving such statements. And should have been advised by the Attorney General that he cannot be making such declarations. Okay, I understand they have the right video now. Obi-Wan, may it be played, please.
And this is why I call you religious leaders. Because people listen to you more than they listen to politicians. All I want us to do together is to reunite the country. Reconcile and forget what has been said about us, what they have done to us and other people. All what I want is reconciliation so that the country continues.
The country, in spite of its geographical location in a very volatile region that is prone to all forms of instability, has always been synonymous.
Obi-Wan, you may turn off the video. Ms. Singhate, do you remember this meeting being held?
Yes,
with the religious leaders, yes.
Wow, ak kilifa diine yi, wow.
Can you tell us what was the intention of the meeting?
I heard it the same way everybody else did, for reconciliation.
Dégg naa ko rek comme ni ko ñëpp déggee ne
And
ñu
for
juboo
united the country.
ñu bennale réew mi.
Is that because that's the time Yaya Jammeh had decided he will not leave the presidency?
He did not tell me that he was not going to leave the presidency.
Waxun ma ne du bàyyi presidency bi de.
Well, in the essence of this meeting, He had indicated that he shall not be leaving the presidency.
Meeting bi na feñal na fa ne mom de du bayyi togu president bobu.
And he wanted the Gambian people to reconcile and forget about everything they had said about them.
Te dafa wax ne dafa bëgg Gambia donaat ben fatte lepp lo xamne wax nañ ko ci seen affaire.
Seeming to mean that if we allowed him to stay, he would change his ways.
Lim doon nuru dal moy suñ ko bayyi won bem togaat na doon wécci doxalin.
As the Attorney General, you should have advised him not to even have such a meeting.
Attorney General bi de yow la won te dang ko no digal na meeting bu mel nonu sax warut ko wona am.
In a meeting where he's trying to convince the Gambian people to allow him to stay.
Ci meeting bo xamne daf doon bëgg dugal ci xeli wa Gambia ne dal nañ ko bayyi pour mu togaat.
He should have been advised to accept the results
and
leave the seat peacefully when the time came. I shall be moving to the next issue, which is how the African Bar Association was encouraged to come and make statements on the election and meet with Jammeh. At this point, I will not ask the OB van to play the video because some of it was shown earlier on. Is it correct to say that you accompanied this said African Bar Association to meet the president?
No, I did not accompany them.
However, they met you at State House.
Actually, they came to see me at my office and introduced themselves. They said that they were concerned about what was going on in the Gambia. That they had an appointment to see the president. That it wasn't right for them to come to meet the president without seeing me as their colleague-in-law.
So that's
how I met them. And later on, I was invited to a meeting at OP.
On a meeting to office of the president OP.
And they were there as well.
Do you remember some of the statements they made on that day?
Vaguely.
But it seems like this time it was okay for non-nationals, non-Gambians to come in and talk about what is happening in our jurisdiction.
It was never not okay for non-Gambians to come and talk about what's happening in our jurisdiction. What I had said earlier, which you deliberately misconstrued, was the fact that if we had a problem in the house, and the house, I mean the Gambia, it's very strange that outsiders would tell us about it. Which I'm not accusing them of.
But
it was in the context of the political agreement. The political agreement we used to have, the meeting we used to have, was very interactive. So it was very friendly. So it wasn't as if I was accusing them.
Ms. Singhate,
but I found it very strange that they would tell us about it whilst you all kept mute. That was the point I was trying to drive home. Not because they're foreigners, they said anything, but because my own compatriots kept mute about it. That was the point I was driving home at Ms. Dandinyai.
It's Mrs. Jabi now.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Jabi.
Thank you. Ms. Singhate, to let you know, the way you had said it, I did not misconstrue it. Okay? The point is, we know Yahya Jammeh and his government frowned on non-nationals raising issues that affected the country. However, in this particular instant, because it was a comment that was buttering him up and in his favor, he allowed it to be televised.
It should
not have been allowed at that time when this country was in a state of confusion for foreigners to come and make pronouncements about our elections that were very clear. Simply stated, that was the issue. At this point, it would just be clear to state that you were one of the longest serving attorney generals, putting both your terms together.
I don't think so. I disagree, but I'm sure you must have had your reason for saying that.
I will leave the commission to see the records on that. However, during your tenure, the Gambia was declared an Islamic state. The Gambia withdrew from the ICC. In December 2014, when there was the failed coup, many persons were arrested, including families of alleged coupists. During the term when you were in tenure, there were loads of arrest, detention, which were all unlawful. There were many laws that were kind of incorporated. There were laws that were passed, especially the LGBT rights. LGBT. It affected their rights, and a law was even enacted, and they were prosecuted. Some were prosecuted, and it imposed capital offense. The record of the country under human rights was very poorly. The UN special rapporteurs were refused access. To prisons, etc. We send reports that not really table out the violations in the jurisdiction. And it even got to a point we even stopped sending reports. As the Minister of Justice, it was your responsibility to advise, to ensure that none of these violations kept occurring in this country, especially those that affected the women. Thank you very much, Ms. Singhate. At this point, I have no more questions.
I would like to respond.
You can do that in your closing remarks.
No, I would like to respond, Mr. Chair, because there were many issues raised here by council, and I just cannot, it cannot be swept under the rug under general remarks. I would like to be given an opportunity to respond to each and every false allegation made here.
Well, you can respond to questions that she's raised.
Yes.
And the others are reserved for your closing remarks.
Yes, let me respond to the question.
Please proceed to
Thank you.
the questions.
Thank you. With regards to the failed coup, the coup was an attempted coup to overturn a legitimately installed government, which is treasonous. In any jurisdiction that you go to, coups are taken very seriously. I'm going to stop there at that.
dama fay taxaw nag foofu.
With regards to laws passed,
bu ñëwee ci loi yi nga xam ne moom lañ taxawal.
I have never passed any law that violated any person's rights.
mosuma taxawal benn loi boo xam ne ni nag dal dina xëtt yelleefi doomu aadama.
The LGBTQ acts that you refer to,
ci tur boobu nga xam ne moom la mooy wax noonu.
it was an amendment to an already existing act that had been enacted since 2005.
mu ngi doon dox nag ci loi boo xam ne wëlbati nañ ko depuis atum 2005.
And what I sought to amend was
li nga xam ne moom laa xënjoon pour wëlbati mooy.
to protect people from being infected with HIV/AIDS.
mooy pour nag aar nit ñi balaa ñu leen ay wàll jàngoro HIV/AIDS.
through an LGBT relationship.
ci jaarale ko nag ci jokko LGBT relationship.
The language of the law is there.
li nga xam ne mooy kàddu loi bi mu ngi fa.
Feel free to read it out for the whole world to hear.
bu la neexee na nga jàng ko àdduna yëpp dégg ko.
But my responsibility at the time
waaye nag li doon suma warugal ci waxtu woowu.
was to protect every citizen in this country.
moo nekkoon pour aar mboolem doomi réew mi fi nekkee ci réew mi fii.
There was already law in the books that was prohibiting LGBTQ relationship.
am na loi boo xam ne nag mu ngi doon dàq nag mbir boobu.
That was in place since 2005.
nga xam ne ñu ngi ko teeloon depuis 2005.
So I did not pass that law.
kon nag loi boobu duutoon man maa ko taxawal.
The only amendment I made which carried a capital offense
li nga xam ne ni nag mooy wëlbati bi ñu ci def soppali bi ñu ci def rek moo nekkoon ne pour taxawal nag li nga xam ne mooy àtte ba.
was the deliberate infection of HIV/AIDS through a homosexual relationship.
mooy nag li nga xam ne nii mooy wàll nit ki jàngoro HIV/AIDS ci anam goo xam ne mooy diggante ñaari góor yu sëy.
Every other law I have passed
tey ko fekk ci ay yeneen loi yi nga xam ne ni
have
tegal
been
naa ko.
progressive,
mu ngi doon dox am na jëm kanam.
have been protective,
te tamit doon na aar nit ñi.
have been in the best interest of the people of the
te
Gambia.
tamit doon na li nga xam ne ni mooy soxal nit ñi dëkkee ci réewi Gambia.
And the fact that you would forget about all those laws and highlight one law,
te tamit nga gis ne dangay fàtte yooyu yëpp dal di indi na benn loi rek.
which was an amendment to a 2005 act,
boo xam ne ni nag si soppali yoo xam ne am na si atum 2005.
means your intentions are not genuine.
moo mel ni sa jubluwaay bi de nekkul loo xam ne ni wér na.
And another thing,
ak beneen bi mooy.
it is important to remember
baax na nag pour ñu fàttali.
my responsibility as Attorney General
ne suma warugal ne maay ministre bi saytoon
was
wàlli loi bi.
effectively and efficiently executed to the best of my ability.
moom nag doxaloon nañ ko ni mu waree ni mu wéree ci li nga xam ne ni moo gàccoo ci suma
I
man-man.
advised based on the law as I saw it.
dama daan yedde ci anam gi nga xam ne noonu laa ko gisee ci loi bi.
Yes, the rest I would state in my closing statement.
li des nag danaa ko indi nag ci suma jamono bi may joxe nag suma.
But one thing I would add,
lenn nag naa ko ci yokk.
all the statements here and the putting it to you here were all based on hearsay.
li nga xam ne mooy kàddu yi yëpp ngay wax ne dañ ko teg fii ak leneen yëpp duñ ko li rek ci ay sottandeku ay nopp.
Other than the issue of the Islamic State,
su moyee nag mbiri Islamic State bi.
there's nothing you can put your finger on that show that I deliberately acted in contravention to international human rights law.
mu dara loo mën a yëkkati sa loxo fii ne def naa ko ci loo xam ne nii dal dina féewaloo ak lu jëm ci wàllu yelleefi doomu aadama yi ci àdduna bi.
Or the Constitution of the Gambia,
wala luwaay réewi Gambia bi.
which is the foundation upon which all of us stand.
nga xam ne ni nag mooy sosuteeg ñun ñëpp fi ñu taxaw.
Yes.
jërëjëf.
Commissioners, if you have any questions, please indicate. Imam Java, you have the floor, please.
Witness.
Imam Jallo mo la laaj mu ne seede bi.
I want you to clear a few points for me here.
Dafa am yu ma bëgg na nga leeralal ma ko fii.
When the election results were announced,
everybody
saw clearly that Yaya Jammeh had lost. The fact that they said there are some mistakes in the counting and still upheld that he actually had lost the elections. Do you think it was right for him to still say that he is not moving out of his seat? That's question number one.
Should I answer or you want to ask all the questions?
No, take this question first. I want to take them seriously.
Yes. Let me answer?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Thank you so much for asking that question. To answer directly, no, I don't think it was fair for him to say he was not going to step down. But you also have to look at the context, Imam. When the declaration of election loss was announced, he conceded. In fact, we were all preparing for the transition process. When IEC declared another set of results that was conflicted to the first set of results, it triggered the impasse. Under any laws, any electoral laws, once the electoral administration issues two conflicted results, they have tainted the election results. So the president was in his right to protest. How we went about it was wrong. And I agree with you to that extent. But to be quite clear, our roles as cabinet and my role as Minister of Justice provided him with the information as to the state of affairs, as to what was right and what was wrong. So we did not renege on our responsibilities to advise and to be of service to the people and the country. Thank you.
You talked about human rights. And you gave the comparison at forums in the international world. We could have done better. I want you to clarify for this commission why you chose that word instead of giving us exactly aspects that affect the Gambian people. Because the answer is not we could have done better. My opinion.
Thank you very much. What I had stated was that no country has a perfect human rights record. But every state aspires to live up to expectation. For the state of the Gambia, we were doing very poorly in freedom of expressions. We were doing very poorly in unlawful detentions. And I am the first to admit that. And I know I have raised that a number of times. But human rights is not just about freedom of speech and freedom of movement. Human rights is also the protection of rights of women and children. Human rights is also to protect the promotion of right to health and education. And comparatively, Gambia was doing well compared to other countries in that aspect. With regards to provision of educational facilities, with regards to ensuring that girls had equal rights to access education as boys, with With regards to reduction of maternal mortality rates.
bu ñëwee tamit ci wàlli jigéen ñi des ci wàlli amam doom ak seen doom yi daanu ci mbootu.
With regards to reduction of infant mortality rates.
ak tamit lu jëm ci wàlli buñ wàññi tamit li nga xam ne mooy xale yi daanu ci mbootu.
This all shows the effort that government was doing in terms of health.
lii yëpp nag nguur gi mu ngi ko doon def ci buñ ko méngalee ak wàlli wér-gu-yaram.
And protection of the rights to the life to those children who could have lost their life but didn't.
tey tamit ak li nga xam ne mooy kaaraange jëm ci dundini xale yooyu nga xam ne ni mënoon nañoo daanu ci mbootu te daanu wuñ ci.
And those women who could have lost their life in childbirth and didn't because of the effort that government had made.
ak jigéen ñooñu nga xam ne ni mënoon nañoo des ci amam doom te desuñ ca ci yëpp nag mu ngi dëppook jéego yi nga xam ne ni nguur gi def nañ ko.
So that's why when we talk about human rights,
loolu moo tax bu ñuy wax mbiru human rights.
it's a holistic setup.
nekk na nag taxawaay boo xam ne nii bu xool la.
It's not just one aspect of rights.
rek benn wàll rek ci wàlli yelleef.
I'm also the first to accept that.
man maay njëlbéen tamit pour nangu loolu.
All rights are interlinked.
yelleef yëpp dañ leen jokkale.
Just because we're doing well in health and education doesn't mean that we should fail in freedom of expression and freedom of movement.
noonu lañ doon defee nag lu wér ci wàllu wér-gu-yaram ak njàng mi loolu rek warta tax rek ñu bàyyi càggante ko ci yeneen buntu yi.
That's why I said we could have done better.
loolu moo tax ma ne mënoon nañoo def lu gën a yéwén.
And we still can do better.
tey ba tey mën nañoo def lu gën a yéwén.
No person, no country is perfect.
amul benn réew amul benn doomu aadama boo xam ne nii dal dina mot sëkk.
But we aspire to do better in life as human beings, as people, as a nation.
waaye yéene nañ nag pour def lu gën a yéwén ni comme ay doomu aadama lañ tey tamit ñu ngeen liggéey nekk ci benn place.
Thank you.
jërëjëf.
For the first time, I'm hearing you say that, admitting that actually there were some for the first time, since in the morning, I'm hearing you say now that you admit that actually there were some human rights violations.
Maybe it's the way you asked it.
Yeah, that's no.
It's the way you asked it. That's why I was able to provide you a direct answer.
Can you give me 3 human rights violations that you are aware of that occurred in this country which adversely affected Gambians?
I can give you an answer as I know now, but I did not know at the time. And that is relating to unlawful detentions. Yes.
What you are telling us is that you are only telling us things that you know. And there is one quotation here which you said, I don't overlook on the shoulders of my employees, but as the person directly responsible for supervision of all staff matters, isn't it your right to look over the shoulders of your staff and underneath their shoulders to ensure that justice is done?
ndax nak do won waxon nga fi ne yow nek lo da ngay top rek gannaaw ñi nga xamne ñoy sa ay liggéeyandor.
Because the impression it gave me is that you didn't know what they were doing.
Waaye nak fogulo ne sa warugal la tamit nga top ba xam li nga xamne ñi sa ron yeb loolu lañ doon def parce que li ma nuru moy ne yow xamulo won ñooñu li nga xamne mom lañ doon doxal.
That's a very good question, but it's not humanly possible.
Loolu nak laajte bu baax la waaye na du loo xam ne ni man a teg doomu aadama la.
In a ministry that has over 100 staff,
ci buntu liggéeykaay boo xam ne dem ci téeméeri nit ñoo fay liggéey.
And over 7 departments.
ak lu dem ci juróom-ñaari buntu liggéeykaay.
I cannot be looking over the shoulder of every department head.
mënuma nekk na di seet mbagg yi ñëpp ñi nga xam ne ni ñoo fay liggéey wala jiite ko.
I trust their competence and their qualification for holding that position.
wóolu woon naa nag seen màcc ak seen taxawaayi liggéey.
I am asking for, you said you to overlook on the shoulders of your staff, whether there are 1 million of them, you have sources through which you could pass to ensure that you know what people are doing, particularly if they are violating the rights of human beings in your country.
Akar nu molo ma bari waron nga am taxawaay yoo xam ne dinga ko mën a jël pour seet ndax ñooñu ñu ngay yàq yelleefi doom aadama fii ci suñu réew mi.
I think the point that has to be made clear here, Imam, is the fact that violations of human rights were not done directly by staff in my office. That those rights, with regards to detention and arrest, that's under the purview of Ministry of Interior.
te yelleef yooyu nag duutoon na yëpp nag daal ci suma ron ministry la nekkoon. jàpp yeeg yooyu noonu nag mu ngi nekkoon ci ron ministry bi saytuwaale doxalin biir réew mi.
So it would not be fair to say that my staff or me or anybody in the Ministry of Justice violated human rights. Nobody did that, and what I can assure you.
du jaadu na pour ne nag loolu yelleef yooyu niñ ko xatee ci suma ron la woon rek loolu moom mën naa la koo gaaral.
I am certainly not saying that your ministry is responsible or you are responsible. I'm saying your role as Attorney General and Minister of Justice. And that is what I am questioning.
Thank you. May I respond?
Yes.
The role as Attorney General,
Attorney General,
as provided for in the Constitution of the Gambia, is to serve as principal legal advisor. It definitely does not mean only legal advisor. And when it came to my responsibilities, God knows I did it to the best of my ability.
My last question is, it goes back to the other question I asked. Can you tell this commission 3 violations that adversely affected Gambians that you can tell us?
laajte bu mujj bi de mooy dama delluwaat la ma laajte woon rek ndax mun nga maa konteel ñetti mbir yoo xam ne yow gis nga ne loolu dafa doon yàq yelleefi doomu aadama ci réew mi fii.
At the top of my head, I can only think of unlawful detention.
ci suma bopp daal li ma ci mën a fàttali ko rek mooy te jàpp nit te dëppwut ak yoon.
Thank you.
Imam C, you have the floor.
Madam Fatimata.
Yes, sir.
Witness. What doubts me is
Yaya Jammeh
Yaya Jammeh will just agree to something, say something.
You
people were lawyers and he didn't know anything about the law. You know all the aspects of law. He will just decide anything that pleases him and put it on you. And you did it. And you said it is a law. And he always lean on the laws, but he is always going by the degrees. I doubt that doubts me how you people accepted that one. Secondly, all that's what you said, and that was not on law. And he has violated people's rights. You have to seek for apology for forgiveness on that. It's not only you.
Thank you very much.
Jerejef Imam.
I want to state for the record that when I give my advice, it's usually done in accordance with the law. So if it's with regards to, for example, prosecution, the relevant law is quoted. And the decision to prosecute would commence. I personally, I have not done anything that has hurt anybody or violated anybody's rights. That is not who I am as a person. And even all those who are speaking, including counsel, would not say that this is what I did. To hurt somebody, to detain somebody, or to do anything that would violate their rights.
That's
not the kind of person I am. That was not the kind of minister I was. That's one. With regards to laws, between 2013 and 2017,
2013 and 2017,
every law that I passed was one way or the other beneficial to the people of the country. There was no law that I moved before Parliament that violated the rights of anybody. In my opinion, I'm the kind of person, if I cannot build and keep the peace, I will not destroy. And nobody can stand here and say I destroyed their lives. Or I did something to hurt them. There usually have been many false allegations made against me in public and in social media, which God knows are not true. But I would not go out and start defending myself on some trivial issues. Because no matter how long it takes, I know I will be vindicated. And I'm going to rest on that. And my conscience is clear. And my relationship with my Creator is clear. When I go to bed, I sleep at night. Because I know my hands are not tainted, they are not stained. And that's the truth.
Commissioner Jones, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Singhate, for your testimony.
Chairman, Ms. Singhate,
my first question would focus on the issue of the Islamic State. I read through your response to Jammeh, dated the 8th of February 2016. And one of your recommendations was to maintain the formal name of the Republic, as it had legal implications. I want to ask a question regarding this recommendation that you made. Was this recommendation adhered to? As in, were letters or correspondence that emanated from the officers or government institutions, including your ministry? Did they maintain the name as the Republic of the Gambia? Or was it changed to Islamic Republic of the Gambia?
My ministry maintained the name Republic of the Gambia.
Suma ministry dafa continue to the Republic of the Gambia.
Because I know the legal implication.
But
others did not. And from the opinion I read, I think I read the second one, that the recommendation I made to the executive was rejected.
Were you aware that other government institutions and ministries were not adhering to this recommendation?
Yes, I was aware with regards to foreign affairs.
What about the Office of the President, since you received a lot of correspondences from them?
I guess so, but the thing is sometimes the letterheads are conflicting. Sometimes it would be Republic of the Gambia, others it would be Islamic Republic.
li nga xam ne moom lañ di def nag ci boppi leetar bi léegoo-léeg de muy féewaloo de léegoo-léeg nga gis fa Republic of the Gambia léegoo-léeg gis Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
It always depends on, I think, the author of the letter that comes from OP.
mu ngi des rek nag ci ki nga xam ne ni moo bind leetar boobu jógee ko ci Office of the President.
Are you also aware that there was a directive that all women should cover their heads when going to, I think it was government institutions? I can't remember what exactly it was, but there was a directive that all women should cover their head.
Yes, I was aware.
waaw yëgoon naa ko.
Taking into consideration that both of these directives are illegal, I think you would agree with me on that. Did you further make any recommendation to the president on the illegality of these directives?
I saw it as an option with regards to covering our heads because I didn't enforce it in my ministry.
man nag forcé wu ma ko nag ci suma ministère bi dama ko jàpp rek ne ke tànn sa bu la neex la rek ku la neex kum neex nga musóoru kum neex nga bàyyi.
Because with regards to covering your head, it's a matter of tradition. You choose to or you don't choose to.
tey tamit nag ngir nag muuru nag loolu nekk na mbir moo xam ne nii mbiri aada la rek bu la neexee nga def bu la neexee doo def.
Beyond just tradition, it's also religious, because I'm a Christian, so I would take offense if someone asked me to cover my head.
Man nag xam nga comme que man nekk Christian la bon dinaa ko gisee ne tooñ la pour nit wax ma ne dama war a muur suma bopp bi.
But you didn't have to. There were some Christians in my office who didn't.
waaye boobaay doo ko def ndax ma am na Christian yu nekk suma office de defuñ ko.
I definitely did not, but that's not the issue. We're talking about an entire nation of about 2 million people at the time. And you have repeatedly told us about your role, which included being the chief legal advisor to the president. You've also told us that your opinions were based on law. And I would think that it goes against the law as far as it concerns majority of Gambians, because this was not a decision that was made by the people of the Gambia. It was one individual who decided to call the Gambia an Islamic Republic of the Gambia. In response to your question to Imam Jallo concerning rights violations that you're aware of, you mentioned unlawful detention and said you only just found out about it. Can you please tell the Commission how you came to know about these unlawful detentions?
I cannot recall at the top of my head. I just know about it.
If you know about it, I'm sure you know about some instances or individuals. Can you speak to that then?
I cannot at the top of my head speak to that.
Okay. Now in totality, we're looking at your, again, taking into cognizance your response to Imam Jallo on the issue of the election. And that's of the issue of the Islamic State. As chief legal advisor to the president or to the government, do you still uphold your conviction that you served your country to the best of your ability?
Of course, definitely, absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you.
And I was honored to have served my country.
And
I was honored to have provided services that was beneficial to my country. And I believe that every person should sacrifice one way or the other to be of service to their country. Being a public service or be public servant is a thankless job. Nobody would get to thank you. In spite of all your achievements and all the benefits that you have provided for your country and your somebody will always find something small to use against you.
Foog nga gis koo xam ne mu ngi jéem a seet lu mu tuuti rek pour tilimal la.
So I know that I have served my country.
Man xam naa ne liggéeyal naa suma réew.
And I know that I have done the best I could possibly can as humanly possible as possible.
Tey tamit nag daa wax ne tamit def naa lépp li nga xam ne toll naa suma kàttan fi mu toll ci liggéey.
That's okay for me.
Te loolu doyloo naa ko.
And I'm okay with it. Whether others see it or not, that's okay. I am satisfied with the work I have done.
Tey doyloo naa nag ñenn ñi xëy na nuñ ko gisee baax na waaye na man doyloo naa li nga xam ne ni gis def naa ko.
Very well said. That being said, however, given the fact that the president made some pronouncements or directives that affected the sovereign will of the people of the Gambia that were illegal.
President bi def na ay dogal yoo xam ne laal na waa réewi Gambia te àndul ak luwa.
I respect your stance and the position you've presented to the Commission that all your decisions were based on law.
Fonka naa sa taxawaay nag li nga xam ne moom nga fi ci commission bi ne yow lépp loo dogal rek danga ko wéer ci luwa.
You had the option to further send recommendations or to resign like others have when those recommendations were not adhered to.
Yow nag mënoon ngaa tànn pour ndax ñu nangu li nga xam ne mooy dogal yi nga ndigal yi nga joxe wala nga bàyyi liggéey bi comme que li nga digle duñ koy def.
Could you please tell the Commission why you chose to continue working even though your recommendations were not adhered to?
Mën ngaa wax commission bi tax nga continuer di liggéey nag comme que li nga leen digal duñ koy def.
I will not sit here to tell you that my work was undemanding.
Duma la fi nekk di wax ne la man suma liggéey nekkutoon loo xam ne dañ ko sàkku woon.
My work was not a 9-to-5 job. My work was not a 9 to. It wasn't. I did not work between 9 and 5 o'clock.
Suma liggéey nekkutoon ci diggante juróom-ñeenti waxtu ak juróomi waxtu yi ci ngoon.
My work was 24/7.
Man suma waxtu li ma liggéey mooy guddeeg bëccëg suba ngoon bés bu nekk.
And it was demanding and it was intense.
Tey tamit luñ sàkkuloon tey tamit lu xóot la woon.
But if I were to resign,
waaye nag bu fekkoon ne dama waroon a bàyyi.
it would mean that I was giving up.
Te dafay mel ni kon dama doon jébbalu.
It would mean that I was throwing in the towel.
Dafa mel ni kon dama doon sànneeku.
And it would mean that I was admitting defeat.
Te kon dafay mel ni maa ngi nangu ne moone nañ ma.
Because every day you go to work,
ndax bot bu set nga dem liggéey.
or every day I go to work,
wala bot bu set ma dem liggéey.
I find a way to make the lives of the people I serve better.
Saay bu ne damaa gis ne def li nga xam ne ni mu ngi jëm ci liggéey ñi nga xam ne ni ñoom laay liggéeyal.
If I fail in one bit,
su ma daanoo ci benn boor rek.
I will endeavor to succeed in another.
Danaa fexe tamit nag dal di mën a sottalaat ci beneen.
It's just like a mother or a father of a home. When there's a problem, they just don't pack their bags and leave the family.
Mu ngi mel ni rek borom kër bu tàngee rek nga jël sa baag daw bàyyi sa njaboot gannaaw.
Face your difficulties and you find ways of solving the problem.
Saay bu ne rek nga jàkkaarloog say jafe-jafe ak ut anam gi nga xam ne noonu nga koy saafara.
I knew the person I was working with.
Xam naa nit ki nga xam ne ni moom laa doon liggéeyal.
I knew how stubborn he could be.
Xam naa tamit naka la dëgëree bopp.
But I also know that there were instances where I was able to get him to comply with my advice.
Waaye nag am naa ci anam yi nga xam ne ni noonu laay daan mujjee fexe bem nangul ma li nga xam ne moom laa daan ko daan yedd.
And in many of those instances,
yenn ci yooyu.
I have saved a number of people.
Dal dinaa sowe ay nit ñu bari.
And I have fixed a number of problems.
Tamit nag saafara naa yenn yu bari.
But those are the things that would never come to light.
Yooyu nag mooy yi nga xam ne ni duñ mos a feeñ.
Because it affects the lives and properties of people who prefer privacy.
Ndax loolu mooy nit ñi nga xam ne nii aar na seen dund ak seen juntuwaay ndax ñoom nekk nañ ñoo xam ne ñu bëggoon sutura la.
Unfortunately, when something goes wrong, you only hear about the bad things.
Te léegoo-léeg bu mbir yi yàqoo rek lu bon ni rek ngay dégg.
You never hear about the good things that people do.
Te tamit doo dégg nag yu baax yi nga xam ne ñu ngi koy def.
It's only when they die that people will talk about all the good things they did.
Ndare rek buñ dee ci la ñuy commencé nag di wax lu baax lañ def.
That's why I say that public service is a thankless job.
Si looloo tax may liggéeyi nguur nekk na loo xam ne ni kenn xamu fu ngeen maate gi toll.
You do your best because of the service you render.
Dangay def li nga man nekk service bi ngay joxe.
Not because of the thank you would get.
Waaye du nag ci ngir maate yi nga xam ne yooyu ngay dégg.
Because if you want to wait for a thank you will never get it.
Ndax bu fekkee ne dangay dégg si yooyu noonu doo ko mos a jot.
That's all.
Jërëjëf loolu
la. Thank you. Before giving Commissioner Carr the floor, just want you to clarify one point for me. It's not quite clear to me. when on the Islamic Republic issue.
Bala ma jox commissioner ka kaddu gi dafa am fuma bëgg nga leralal ma rek lo aju ci mbiri ne réew mi ñu jox ko réewi islam.
I think if I heard you correctly, one of the recommendations in your note to the President's office
su fekkee dégg naa la bu baax de yenn yi nga xam ne digal nga ko président bi
was to maintain the name of the country, Republic of the Gambia.
mooy ne ni xamee woon réewi Gambia ne République bu Gambia nañ téye waat tur boobu na meloon.
While giving it attributes of an Islamic state? I'm a bit confused at the two coexisting.
lu tax ñuy
You
xalaat
can just clarify the point.
war a nekk réewi islam nga leeralal ñu foofu.
Subsequently, you mention retaining or creating the attributes of an Islamic state. It's that contradiction that keep the name, don't call it Islamic or Republic of the Gambia, but have institutions and laws and other things that attributes of Islamic State. Do you get it?
I don't think that's what I said.
Okay,
Unless,
then I misunderstood you.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted you to
unless
clarify
Council
the
can
point.
share the letter again, because I think I remember stating that, because there was already a proclamation that the country would be an Islamic state. All of a sudden, Gambia was being referred to as Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
nekkul ne loolu laa wax de kana kañ Council indiwaat seeta wana ñu letter bi rek ndax am na yébaane boo xam ne defoon nañ ko ne Gambia daal mu Islamic Republic la waaye mu nit ñi commencé di ko ooyee.
My recommendation was, can we keep Gambia the way as it is, Republic of the Gambia?
Man suma tontu moo nekkoon suma li ma ràññee moo nekkoon ndax mënuñoo continuer di Gambia tur biñ ko xamee. Republic of the Gambia.
That we have to go through a process, a whole list of process before we can be an Islamic state.
Ne dañ war a jaar ci ay yoon yu bari balaa ñooy àgg nag ci Islamic Republic state.
And that includes going through a referendum.
Loolu nag bokk na ci pour dem ci benn referendum.
I think that was the point I was trying to make.
Yaakaar naa loolu moo nekkoon point bi nga xam ne moom laa bëggoon a def.
And for me personally,
tamit man ci suma bopp rek.
I believe
yaakaar naa ne tamit ne.
that by the time we actually say we're going to go through the process of Islamization of the Republic,
jamono bi nga xam ne ñu ngi jël ci dem ci saawo si nga xam ne mooy wéral réew mi def ko réewi islam.
before we get to a referendum,
balaa ñooy àgg nag ci referendum.
this issue would have been resolved, I believe.
te lii mënoon nañ koy saafara ci li ma yaakaar.
But your advice certainly wasn't taken.
It wasn't.
And he did inform. I was at the United Nations at that time. We received his letter informing that the name of the Gambia had changed to the Islamic Republic of the Gambia.
Linko digal defut ko de ndax man jamono jooju maa ngi liggéey United Nations jotoon nañ leetar bu wone ne soppali nañ tur bi tuddee ko Islamic Republic bu Gambia.
That's why I said that I know Foreign Affairs changed the names.
Foreign Affairs I
met Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, a few days after that in Makkah, and he held my hand for almost 5-10 minutes. And when I returned to New York, he said to me, "Your brother held your hand because you are now Islamic Republic of the Gambia." I told him, "No, that was not it." But Commissioner Kai, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Singhate, for your testimony before this commission. First question I want to ask you is, follow up to Imam Jallo's question. Because Imam asked you to name 3 human rights violations you were aware of. And you mentioned that you only knew about illegal detention. Looking back. Would it be correct to say you are in touch with the reality on the ground?
Firstly, let me set the record straight. I did not say I only knew. I said the only thing I can think of at the top of my head.
Lima ñakal xarama leral fi waxuma ne len li rek la xamne dama ne lima mëna fatele ko.
And as your second question, I believe is a rhetorical question because you don't expect me to give you an answer for that.
Laajte boobu nag nekk na laajte boo xam ne nii laajte bu sentu ne daa ci jox benn tontu.
So would you were aware of other human rights violations then?
Bon ndax yëgoon nga yeneen mbir yoo xam dafa yàq yelleefi doomu aadama.
I said at the top of my head, the only thing I can think of at the top of my head was illegal detention.
May la ci li nga xam ne loolu la mën a sottante ko suma bopp bi léegi nii rek mooy jàpp goo xam ne dëppoowut ak yoon.
Were you reading media reports about human rights issues in the Gambia?
Ndax jàng nga xibaar bi nga xam ne wone nañ ko lu aju ci mbiri yelleefi doomu aadama fii ci Gambia.
Media reports such as?
Ban.
The local newspapers?
Kayiti xibaar yi réew mi.
I was reading the local newspapers.
So you would be aware of those human rights violations that were reported in those papers?
Like illegal detention.
Thank you.
Lu mel ni ki jàpp benn jàpp dëppoowut ak yoon.
And did you do anything about those issues?
Ndax am na dara loo defoon ci mbir moomu.
Yes.
Wow.
Can you tell this commission?
I talked to my colleague, the Minister of Interior, and informed them that whatever they do, they should do so according to law.
Ci laa wax ak suma collègue koo xam ne suma nawle la di ministre bi saytu wàlli interior bi ne ko lépp lu ñuy def nañ ko def lu mu dëppoog yoon.
At your own ministry, what did you do?
Yow ci sa liggéeykaay loo def.
I was not responsible for detention, so the best thing I could do, the only thing I could do was provide advice.
Man sum du gàddu ma woon ji fi jàpp benn place li ma mën a def rek mooy yedd ki ko ñi ko gàddu woon.
But I believe you must have had knowledge of these other issues as you've indicated in your reply.
Xam naa di nga yëg yeneen i xew-xew yi amoon comme que ni nga ko feeñalee ci sa tontu bi.
I think I've already answered your question.
Yaakaar naa tontu naa sa laajte ba pare de.
Anyway, my final question would be, since you mentioned, even in your answer to some of the questions Commissioner Jones asked and some of the other commissioners, that you did your best, but sometimes you fell short.
Waaw comme ko wax nga fi ne nag def nga sa kéemtalaay kàttan waaye léegi-léegi ni nga ko buggee du amee noonu.
Is there anything you would like to ask for forgiveness from the Gambian people?
Am na benn jéggalu boo xam ne bugga nga ko laaj waa Gambia ñu pour ñu jéggal la.
No.
Déedéet.
Thank you.
Please proceed to make your final remarks.
I think I'll hold my peace. I am not going to say anything else.
Thank you very much indeed for coming to testify before the Commission.
Jërëjëf bon li nga ñëw ci kanami commission bi.
Council, you have some submissions to make.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Exhibits.
The letters and the opinion that were indicated before the Commission, I would like to apply to tender them. I will do the dates and everything as later, but to give you the number, it will be 221. And then from A, B, C, to D.
Anything else? That's it?
That's all.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much indeed, and we will resume our public hearings on Monday, 10 o'clock sharp. Thank you all very much.
Am I excused? Can I go?
The meeting is ended. Yes, you are. But
no, I just want to know whether I have to come back again or are you done with me?
If we do, we will get in touch with you.
No,
we can't tell now.
No, I heard you said we will resume proceedings again.
No, not you, not you. I meant I'm just announcing that this ends our activities for today. And no, with you, we are finished. When we need you, we'll bring you back.
Thank you so much.
But thank you very much, Madam Singhate. Meeting is adjourned again.
They say we slept in one world and woke up in another. This global tragedy got humans together despite our social distancing. Our nature is taking a break. and giving us a wake-up call on what and who truly matters. Look around you. Hold on. Breathe.